The narcissist reality gap. The lesser narcissist. Whether it is the out-and-out loser that is the lower lesser, the usually useless middle lesser, or the successful but overbearing bully that is the upper lesser type B, or the relatively charismatic dog with six dicks, which is the upper lesser type A. The four have certain common traits. One of these traits is their delusional state. The lesser narcissist exists in a bubble, convinced of his or her good looks, or innate strength, or irresistible sexiness, masculinity, attractiveness, brilliance at politics, that they are always correct and right at what they do, that they are the expert. They think that everybody likes them, and if you don't, then you're an idiot, and you're not worth bothering with. If you get in their way, you're an arsehole, and you have to be removed. They believe themselves to be great at sport, or writing, or whatever hobby it is that they do, if they have them. And if they don't win or receive an accolade, well, the game was fixed. You cheated. The paint was the wrong sort, or the judges are retarded. After all, can't anybody see that the lesser is a swaggering champion? Well, if they can't, well, they must need their head seeing to, yes? The lesser cruises through life, doing what he or she wants, taking whatever they want, behaving as they please, and nobody is allowed to stop or interfere with this God-given right. They are completely oblivious to their shortcomings. That bloated beer belly just shows a certain joie de vivre. Going bold is a sign of virility. Wearing that same jacket is a mark of classic attire. Their narcissism enables them to maintain their perceived superiority, where often none actually exists, through the application of this delusion. In a way, they're comfortably dumb. They just don't see their failings, their inadequacies, and their failures. The self-defense mechanism of the twin lines of defense will either deny any such failing or deflect it away by ascribing it to being the fault of someone or something else. Thus, the lesser escapes culpability, maintains superiority, gathers fuel, maintains control, and barrels through life. Barrels through his or her life, wreaking havoc all around, yet never suffering consequences. Even if a consequence occurs, the narcissism rejects it. They've lost their job, wasn't their fault. The boss was a dickhead. Relationship tanked, didn't want her anyway. Friend isn't calling round, he's useless and he's a loser. It's never the lesser's fault, and they're like a wrecking ball, causing chaos wherever they go, but they don't see anything wrong with that because it's been brought on everybody else by their own behaviour. Now, the fuel crisis of a lesser, of course, causes this bubble to burst, but this article isn't about the effect of the fuel crisis, but rather the reality gap. When fueled, the lesser suffers no reality gap whatsoever. He or she is oblivious and is served totally by the delusions of their narcissistic perspective, because that is what enables them to exist and function. What then of the greater narcissists and the ultra? There is no doubting that they can point to substance to support these bold pronouncements. Look at the money, the high-status career, the successful public life, the adoring crowds, the power that is wielded, the records made, the books sold, the art created, the countries invaded, the factories opened, the gadgets invented, and the elections won. From captain of industry, Olympic champion, pop star, politician, royal, leader, spin doctor, fixer, striving executive, eminence grease, acclaimed actor, fated artists, through to hundreds of other positions and roles, the greater and the ultra populate the higher echelons of achievement. His or her narcissism has enabled such an ascent, with no sense of remorse, no conscience, the desire to be the best, a total belief in one's ability, a sense of entitlement, and operating with absolute expediency. It is little wonder that the greater narcissist and the ultra clamber into these positions. Is there delusion with the greater? Indeed, and it manifests in the form of embellishment and exaggeration, because the innate paranoia of the narcissist means that it's never enough. He may be popular, but he sees that he is immensely popular because the narcissism demands it. The narcissism enabled him to scale the heights of political power to begin with, and then feeds the need to stay there and want more and more, because non sufficit orbit terrarum. Accordingly, the greater will have considerable power, but sees its reach as being even further. The greater in the ultra has wealth, but embellishes its degree. The narcissistic perspective insists on there being a reality greater than there is. It is even better than the real thing. The combination of that which has been achieved and the belief in added achievement results in the application of power on a tremendous scale, which in turn feeds the narcissism. Round and round it goes. There might be a reality gap, but in a similar yet different way to the lesser, it isn't apparent to the greater, save when the effects of a fuel crisis manifest. And for a greater to suffer a fuel crisis is extremely unusual. However, what of the mid-range narcissist? Old, shriveled, worn-out balls. He or she can also achieve, not on the scale of the greater, but often beyond that of the lesser. The mid-range narcissist, particularly middle range A and B and upper mid-range, will secure success, good jobs, excellent income, academic achievements, sporting achievements, and so forth. Often many friends, well liked by family and the community, that good old facade at work there, and convinced of their own innate goodness, their empathic nature. However, one of the fundamental differences between the lesser and greater narcissists compared to the mid-ranger is the basis on which the application of the reality gap operates. The lesser superiority is based on aggressive provocation, albeit in a rudimentary and base manner. Think sledgehammer. The greater superiority is also based on aggressive provocation, but in a more streamlined, refined, and magnificent manner. Think a gold-encrusted and diamond-encrusted Walther PPK. The mid-ranger's perceived superiority has its foundation placed on passive provocation, the silent treatments, the jealous smearing, the office politicking, the pity plays, and so forth. The consequence of this is that this passive, defensive superiority, as opposed to the driving, thrusting, aggressive superiority of the two schools, results in the mid-range narcissist suffering periodic reality gaps. He, of course, will have them, and in a massive way as a consequence of a fuel crisis, but that's not the subject of this article. This is something else, the reality gap. The mid-range narcissist is afflicted by episodic instances of a detachment between his narcissistic perspective and reality. This doesn't mean that he sees that he is a narcissist, no. But occasionally, the inflated sense of the way that he sees himself vanishes. This is part of his narcissism. The inflated image of what he is what enables him or her to operate in a passive-aggressive manner through seeking sympathy, exhibiting jealousy, inviting pity and demanding help and support. The mid-range narcissist will occasionally get a glimpse of what he or she is, as opposed to what he or she believes they are, i.e. wants to be. He suddenly realizes that he is the middle manager salary man and not on the fast track to the board. There is no actual extraneous evidence to suggest that he was ever being fast-tracked, but his own mid-range delusion tells him that he is. But sometimes that vanishes. Whereas the lesser sees he is holding a semi-skilled position in the factory floor, he either sees that as what's best for him, or he wouldn't want to be a white-collar wanker anyway, or he believes he's never made it to management because the existing managers are cocksuckers who are clueless and have no idea how to run a company. The greater is either at the board already, or on his way, or indeed owns the company. The mid-range narcissist, once believing he was destined for that executive position, suddenly realizes he is not. He once believed that he brought considerable influence to bear beyond his current status, because he was talented and just ripe for promotion. But then he is suddenly aware that this is not the case. The football career that he thought was glittering, that he thought he had achieved so much, isn't as impressive as he thought or wanted it to be. She is nowhere near as popular as she thinks she is. She isn't able to win the races that she thought that she could. The shortfall between what the mid-range wants to be, believes themselves to be, and what they actually are, manifests and delivers a crushing blow to the mid-range narcissist. It invariably comes as a consequence of being wounded, although to the narcissist it appears that it comes out of nowhere, a sudden fountain of mediocrity which surges up in an unexpected and unwelcome way to the mid-range narcissist. This awful reminder acts as a threat to the narcissist's control. The mid-range narcissist immediately seeks to escape this reality gap by complaining, raging, sulking, or smearing, one of the few occasions where heated fury occurs, thus asserting control over others to draw fuel and banish this sudden reminder that they are nowhere near as special as what they have been led to believe that they are. They are given a glimpse of their mediocrity. Their envy of those who are what their mid-ranger wants to be is unfettered. Their dejection at their position requires immediate succour from those around them to flow with pity and sympathy until a moment has passed, and with it the danger to their existence. What it does not do, however, is enable the mid-range narcissist to see that they are a narcissist. That can never happen. Accordingly, there are occasions when the mid-range narcissist has been wounded and they exhibit some kind of panic attack, a wailing and bemoaning of his or her lot in life, even though there is no fuel crisis evident. Then you have witnessed the appearance of the mid-range narcissist's reality gap generated by the wounding that has occurred, and they are being given a short, sharp look at what they actually are, i.e., not as effective as they think they are, not as special as they think they are, not as handsome as they think they are, not as clever as they think they are, and so on and so forth. It is like they are being dunked in a vat of icy water, which brings their reality to the fore, shattering the perception, albeit for a short time. And this provokes such a visceral response in that narcissist. The twisting, the wailing, the crying, the apparent breakdown. This is the narcissist's reality gap. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.